Hello and welcome to the Balanced Business Dad Podcast. This podcast is just one part of the Balanced Business Dad movement. This movement provides a platform of the important pillars of life while building this council of dads to support each other as we work to balance our lives. The 6 pillars of life that we strive to balance are our faith, our health, our marriage, fatherhood, brotherhood, and our business. We are here to build a council of dads to celebrate wins and as well as to share the challenges of being a husband and a father, and all the while working to keep our pillars in balance. The goal of the Balanced Business Dad movement is for dads to be better in all things, balanced, because everyone in our lives deserves it.
Hello, dads, once again, and welcome to another episode of the Balanced Business Dad. I'm your host, Dustin Hogue, and with me always, my friend, my partner, my colleague, my senior, Mr. RJ Campbell, and my co-host. So we were just talking there. I paused there because RJ says I introduce him different every time. So I was trying to come up with these creative, adjectives, and I had nothing. I totally drew a blank, which I'm kind of upset about myself for that. But RJ, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I think what he was looking for this time was tall and good looking. He hasn't used that one before.
Yes. So if I would say tall, I would be a liar. So I will never say that. Guys, we are, first of all, just welcome to the new year. I mean, we're a couple months in now, so it's going extremely well. And we have been bringing just packed full of awesome guests. And guys, this episode is just the same. On the episode today, we have Matt Shoup. Not Shoup, Shoup, S-H-O-U-P. And I had to say that to make sure I didn't mess it up. So Matt, welcome to the show. How are you today?
You know, I'm excellent. Thank you guys for having me. And no, I appreciate the asking on the name. I get called a lot of things, but yeah, Shoup is usually the default.
Yes, I can understand that. And I got called a lot of names too. And that's why you don't see my last name on there. So
it's all good. All good.
Awesome. So Matt, we're going to just jump right into it because you are, someone that can touch these business dads to kind of help to guide them along in their entrepreneurial world with the leadership growth. But you have the faith background as well. So all the pillars that we focus on, you align with. So I'm so excited to have you on the show today. But first, let's just hear from, kind of what you're doing today, who you are, what you do, and all that good stuff.
Yeah, no, would love to. Thank you for the opportunity. And just first off, thank you to all of the dads that are listening to this, that are committing to being intentional as dads. It's a very important thing. It's easy to lose that in just this culture and being busy with everything going on. So I love what you guys are doing. And, whoever's listening to this, just to take the time, you are making a difference. This is a great investment in fatherhood and your family's legacy. So, I'll just start with that encouragement and thanks to everybody.
Love it.
But I'm a business guy. I grew up in New Jersey. I lived there till I was 10, and I recall some moments of my childhood where I didn't fit in. I got bullied a lot, pretty severely. And when we moved out here to northern Colorado, my first stint at business was I asked my parents to give me $200 for a boombox. CDs were the new technology, and they said, "We're not giving you $200. Go figure out a way to make your own money." So I took their lawnmower and started mowing lawns, knocking on neighbors' doors. That turned into shoveling snow, peddling candy at school, all of those things. So business has always given me a sense of identity. Definitely my intentions as a father now are to really give opportunities to my children that I didn't have and teach them things that I wish I would have learned. But, sitting here today in 2023, yes, serial entrepreneur, owns 6 companies. I'm really focusing right now on writing and speaking and taking business owners on leadership retreats to Spain. But yeah, I'm a licensed realtor. So I've been in that world, real estate investor. We own a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu academy, and then just really make time, carve out time to be really intentional with the family. We love to travel, especially to Spain. It's a big part of my life. So that's a quick nutshell of me and where I'm at.
All right. So yeah, I'm actually on your website now. So I wanted to ask a couple questions about that. So I love the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt is what you have on your website. And I didn't know that you actually ran and operated that school. So something that I started almost a year ago to this month, was I
Awesome.
started martial arts with my son, who my son just turned 6. So we started when he was 5, and we are in the discipline of Kuk Sul Wan, a Korean martial art. And it's been amazing to do that, not only for myself, because I've always wanted to do it, but it's been amazing to do this journey with my son. It's been fantastic. So how long have you guys owned that school?
We launched the school in 2019. I've been training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu 15 years, martial arts for about 20. And yeah, we launched the school. We're coming up on just coming into our 4th year.
Nice. I love it. And so is it just you, or is your whole family business there? I know you mentioned you had kids and a wife, so are they a part of that as well?
Yeah, so we all train. My kids have both been training. They're now 15 and 12. My son Riley's 15. My daughter Haley's 12. But I own the academy with my business partner, Troy Pettyjohn. We were longtime training partners, coming up the ranks in jiu-jitsu. Here locally. We met, and his dream was always to run a martial arts academy, but he had a long time employee background. So he was getting ready to retire. And I never planned on launching a gym as a business. It just, a chain of events happened and such that I was able to help launch this school. And then Troy knew he was going to retire. And, 2 years after we launched it, he kind of took over the ops, and he's running with it now.
Nice.
Wow,
That's
pretty cool.
awesome. I love seeing passion turn into business.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a cool story, cool journey, but, so cool that you're doing that with your son. I'd encourage any parents. I mean, that part of our story and journey has really changed and shaped our son in a really cool way.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. That's why I wanted to talk about that, because I mean, it's been life-changing for us. I mean, I don't think he would have started at such an early age if I didn't do it with him. But now seeing the accomplishments, I think he's had 3 tests himself for, up to belt levels. And I mean that, at every age is testing at the same time. So, it's a 3.5, 4-hour test for a 5-year-old and 39-year-old like myself. And, for him to be able to do that, it's just been amazing to watch. And it's just, one of the best things I think I've done for my children. And I plan on, when my daughter turns 2.5, I want her to join too, or when she turns 5. So yeah, very cool.
I love it. I love it. No, such a great thing. So many lessons. And I don't know much about the art that you mentioned, but I think you put a child into, or an adult, right, into any kind of martial arts, the discipline, the structure, the confidence, the, rooting, the being able to stand up for yourself. And then whatever that specific art niches into, what it teaches you, it translates into all other aspects of life and leadership,
Absolutely.
family and business.
Yeah,
and then if anybody ever messes, like I got bullied, I got beat up by girls on the playground, and I asked Riley, I was telling him a lot about my story growing up, and he's like, Dad, I've just never had that happen. And I said, and you probably never will, because he carries this air of confidence that I just never knew existed as a kid. Yep. So good job. Good job.
That's awesome. So, well, let's just jump right into a little bit of your story. I'm on your website. There's a couple things I want to touch base on, because we were talking before, we hit record here. And you talked about how faith has been such a, part of your journey as an entrepreneur, as somebody who coaches and things like that. So I'd love to really jump into that. It sounds like, you have your pillars that we talk about, balance, but you definitely put faith ahead of things. So I would love to see, hear about that journey. And then also any time that you've been out of balance where you had to get back right with that.
Yeah, love it. Thank you. My faith journey. So I did not know God or Christ or Jesus or anything growing up. And I think, we just talked about your son, right? He has this martial arts foundation. It's a pillar, it's a rooting. And I just didn't have that. So being, I was a young, skinny, bucktooth, easy target, just getting kind of pounded on in lots of different aspects. And with that, like, I didn't have God to turn to. So you turn to worldly things. You turn to false senses of security, right? That are rooted in sand and nothing solid. So just growing up, I was really struggling a lot to find my identity. Now, business became a great positive influence on me. So graduating high school and getting into college, this is when I really started exploring my faith. Worked for a college painting company, and they took me and recruited me and hired me, and they trained me in a lot of the aspects of sales, of business and marketing. And as I'm going through that, having a lot of success in business, I'm also finding a lot of purpose and fun and excitement in drugs and alcohol and chasing women. So I share that, I put things into my body that I shouldn't have, and put my body in a lot of places and situations that I shouldn't have. And that was the crowd and the environment that rooted, I had faith in that, right? I had certainty in that. And I would also be walking along campus getting recruited. What I call them is the Bible box guys in the plaza, right? Like, you're going to hell. What did you do? What did you smoke Saturday night? You're going to hell. And I said, you're the last guy that I want to talk to in trying to find purpose and identity. So I had all of these encounters. And as a follower of Christ, I would just encourage you guys, you're either going to draw somebody towards Jesus or you're going to push them away. So be very conscious and careful with what you say, how you say it, and if you have any relevance in that person's life to even speak into it, right? So long story short, it's New Year's Eve of 2001. I had run into the Bible box guys, and then I also had a couple people that were like, "Hey, Matt, God loves you. You should explore more of that." And I said, "All right, cool. I'm going to go out and party right now." So I'm at a house party. Clock strikes midnight. We're doing the drugs and doing the drinking, and I'm like, I got to get home now. And I know that I live just 1 mile due south. If I walk down this street, it's going to pop out at my apartment. Little did I realize that street did not go straight. It kind of zigged and zagged through a neighborhood. But I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to keep walking straight. So I'm stumbling, like I'm halfway to death, stumbling through this street, which ends at a guy's house. And I'm like, I'm just going to keep going straight. So I'm trying to climb this fence. Car pulls up behind me. I just remember the headlights, the door open, the door closed. A guy grabs me by the collar and the belt, spins me around, and like smashes me down under the hood of a minivan. I'm looking in the minivan. It's a wife and a kid. I'm like, "Who are you grabbing me?" And he goes, "I'm the Fort Collins Police Department. Put your hands behind your back." And he cuffs me. Marked car comes up. They put me in the car and they said, "Hey, do you know where you live?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm just straight. Just drive straight through this guy's yard." So he takes me home, and really interesting. This guy wasn't talking to me about Jesus. He was kind of having maybe a cop moment, right, where they say, "Hey, get your life straight, kid." He just said to me, he goes, "You're lucky I don't take you to the drunk tank. You don't want to go there. You look good enough to go home." But he said, "I really want you to evaluate the choices you've been making and continue to make, and see where that's going to take you in life." And he uncuffed me, walked me to the door, made sure I got home safe, and woke up the next day. And I was like, man, I really took what he said to heart. And he wasn't soapboxing, he wasn't preaching, he didn't say anything about Jesus, but I just said, man, this guy, like, he loved on me and cared for me in a moment of distress. And that's when I really evaluated my life. And about 2 weeks later, I turned my life over to God and began that journey. And, really looked at what does life look like now with that component of that certainty and that faith, and what Jesus's story means to me, and like everything moving forward, right? Fatherhood eventually, business eventually. And it was a fun time, challenging time. Because then you wake up and like your friends just want to go out again Saturday night. Like, man, no, I think we're going to change direction.
Wow, what a great story. A couple things that I found just amazed by that. It's, we've heard other people, we've had other people on the podcast of this very dramatic experience they've had where they found God through that dramatic experience. And yours, not to take anything away from it because it was your experience, but it wasn't this dramatic thing. It's an experience that a lot of us have probably went through, right?
Mm-hmm.
Getting our hands slapped on the wrist by the cop, getting taken home, that kind of thing. But it changed your life because of, I'm going to say, yes, he was having that cop moment because really the Holy Spirit was there and you heard that.
Absolutely.
Time.
Yeah.
And that's what I found amazing by that story. It's, we've had one gentleman on the podcast where he was drinking out of the toilet in jail. Right. That rock bottom.
That was who we just talked about. Yeah.
Yeah. That was Justin Ford, an amazing story, but it's still such an amazing story from yours. But what I like about it is it doesn't have to be this dramatic event. Just when the Spirit's talking to you and when God's speaking, you heard it. And I love that. That is, what a phenomenal story. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Well, and thank you for that point. And I'd encourage your listeners too, especially anybody in the business field that wants to get on a platform and speak. When I started speaking, I go, man, I have this rags to riches business story, but I don't have this, hanging off the cliff of death. And then I
Right.
saw Jesus's face and he spoke right. It was just like, yeah, I got arrested and I was drunk and the guy just said a few words to me. So, but you don't need that, right? If
Right.
you're thinking about sharing your story, it's your story. You don't need to inflate it or over inflate it or anything like that. Like that's just what it is. And don't feel like you've got to have this big magical moment to impact somebody's life, especially when it comes to sharing your faith with people too. Just be you, love on somebody where they're at. And sometimes you don't need to say the word Jesus or quote the Bible. I think the 3 to 5 people that impacted me the most, like I knew where they were coming from. I knew they were reading it. I knew what they believed, but they just said, "Matt, I love you. Do you need anything?" They were just there, and I knew I could come to them when I did need something and realized that myself.
Yeah. That's awesome. Love that story so much for sharing. And I think there's so many of us that have a story that sometimes we're afraid to share,
Mm-hmm.
especially about our faith. And so I appreciate that. I know a lot of the listeners will get something out of that. So that's the journey aspect. That's the faith aspect you had that has really created this foundation of your life, as a husband, as a father, but as a businessman. And then it looks like some other things, I'm just kind of going through your website, that I really want to dive into is the gentle art of leadership. So tell us what that is, because that is, sometimes you don't hear gentle and leadership at the same sentence. So I think
Absolutely.
there's something there.
Yeah.
So I would love to hear more about that.
Yeah, I'll share that. And you asked earlier about, where I was imbalanced. And as I was growing my business, I found out early on I was very good at business and the tactical execution of marketing and sales and, working really hard and driving people. But I had a few people in my life, some mentors really challenged me. They're like, "Hey, you kind of suck at leadership and you're good at driving people, but you're not really great at building people up." And, I started my business when I was 23. Then I started training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu at 27. And the gentle art of leadership comes from the fact that it is really it is a comparison of the leadership lessons I learned on the Jiu-Jitsu mats as I journeyed through Jiu-Jitsu and how those lessons carried over into business, and, leading and developing right myself, but then other people. So I'm actually doing a video series right now. I just started posting on Instagram, but I went into my first Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu class. I was 200 pounds of ego and muscle and had something to prove. And I said, "All right, what do you want me to do?" They said, "Go fight that kid right there. He was half my age, half my size." And they just said, "Take it easy on him." I said, "Okay, sure." And I went out hard charging, straight after this kid. He threw me on my back, twisted me up like a pretzel. He made me cry uncle and tap and submit multiple times. And, that lesson is, sometimes your greatest strengths, you're driving forward so hard with them is, you'll drive into something where you weren't ready, you get thrown on your back. So just that the whole program, it's a journey, it's a training, right? There's training modules. And then I take people to Spain on experiential retreats where we discuss these different learning lessons. And it's a cool comparison. It's also, when I tell people, it's also a ploy to get everybody in the world to try Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, because I think they should.
I like it.
It sounds like it's twofold. You're trying to get everybody to try Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and to visit Spain.
And to visit Spain, and just a question, one of the tenets of the program is that every journey begins with a first step. When we step into fatherhood, we step into business, we step into leadership, we're going to be green. We're going to be totally inexperienced. We're going to get humbled very quickly. And because of that, we will not take that step. So the first, lesson encouragement is just take that step. Don't worry about it. Just jump in the pool. Yep. You're going to go right under the water, and you're just learning how to pop that head above water at first. And that's what Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu feels like. That's what leadership felt like when I said, "Hey, business is more than just me and what's in it for me. It's about other people and serving them and putting them first and building them up." I had no idea how to do that.
Wow, that's pretty cool. So you mentioned that being a serial entrepreneur, and it sounds like you were from the age of about 10. But in your adult life, where did the entrepreneurship come from? Did you always? Did you just start businesses right away out of college, or?
No, so I had the little hustles, right? I had the couple hundred to $1,000 in the fishing tackle box in middle school. And then what happened was I worked hourly jobs through high school and then was introduced to the college painters in college. So my 4 years at Colorado State University, I ended up making six figures over 4 years. And I just share that because I spent three times what I made, graduated college, and I go, painting, it's blue collar, the work's kind of dirty. You're out in the hot sun. This is not a sexy business. I want to go make lots of money in the real estate mortgage business. And this is back in 03, 04, right? With I'll just say this. I was in a boiler room, the sales guys drinking Red Bull, sniffing cocaine, 200 calls a day.
I know that. I know that
paper.
episode well. Yes.
Yeah. Find the debt, find the equity, tie it all up and save them some money. I go, but I started asking a lot of questions. I go, but you're tying all this unsecured debt to secured, and he goes, do you want to ask questions or make some effing money? And I drink that Red Bull. And I said, this isn't for me. Then I go to like conservative bank, right? That recruited me. I speak Spanish. So they recruited me to a highly Spanish speaking area in Northern Colorado. And the long story short is it's 2005. So it's a spring morning and I'm coming into this bank hating life, plotting my escape, like knowing I'm going to do some kind of business. And a new bank president comes in, called me into the office and said, put all your shit in a box and get out. You're fired. And like literally threw me out of the bank. And I started my painting company with the last $100 I had to spare. That's M&D Painting. And then just went out, head down for like 2 years. I didn't even look up. I just hustled and hustled and hustled. And I was really angry about it, right? Because like, how dare you fire me? I was going to quit on my own terms. But that was the launch back in. At that point, I said, hey, I'm never going to work for somebody again. I've got to depend on me and only me. Forgot that God has to play in it, right? So like that's how angry I am that I forgot those things. So I was unbalanced there. It was just I'm going to work tirelessly because I make things happen, right? Yeah. Which there's a component of that, but I forgot about some very other important things.
So yeah. So when did that change? When from angry and just trying to prove everybody wrong?
It's funny, like anger and that drive will only get you so far. It can get you pretty far, right? But it's like what I realize is, okay, so I'm pissed. I'm going to become a millionaire. I'm going to have $1 million business. Okay, you get there. Okay, now what? Have you brought people up with you? I'm a hard guy to say anything to. I'm very type A, very driven, very direct. So I can be scary, right? In my business approach. It's just my personality style. But I had a couple of people that were like, hey man, you don't scare me. You suck with people. Paint the picture of your business 3, 4, 5 years from now. If you keep taking everything on your shoulders and you keep giving people positions within your company and then micromanaging them to death to where it's like, why'd you even hire them? Things like that. And I had people that had this space and ability to call me out and I would listen to them. And then, a couple guys were like, hey, you need to really evaluate how you're doing things. How are you making these people's lives better as you're making your life better? And I wasn't focusing on that or thinking of that.
It was just all you.
Love that.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then,
and there wasn't like a defining moment, like, drunk in the field, police guy picked me. It wasn't anything like that. It was just these little call outs. And I just finally decided like, hey, let's pour into people. Let's start building people up. And it was amazing when they started seeing that, they responded differently. They behaved differently. There were some people that have actually stayed with me, over the past 10, 12, 13 years as I made that transition. And I was just speaking with one of my team members, Kevin, about that. I'm like, man, how did you stay around? And he's like, man, I just saw something in you that you didn't see yet. And I was patient enough to let it happen and hang around.
Wow. Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah. A total change.
Yeah. So there's a couple things I wanted to touch base on there. What I loved is I've coached so many entrepreneurs, but that the day they lose their job is actually the best thing that's ever happened to them. Mm-hmm. And they don't think of it then, but that's exactly what they needed to have that push, right? They were just waiting for that push and it took somebody else. And it kind of sounds like that's what happened, because where would you be if you were still, doing loans for that conservative bank?
Yeah, I would be miserable. And I
Right.
wrote a blog last Christmas Eve. I said, when you turn an FU into a thank you, because I did. I said FU, and I walked out and I kicked the door open with all my stuff in a banker's box. And I go, you know what? Thanks, man. Like I didn't appreciate the way he did it, but it was the best, worst day of my life. And it was a
Yeah.
turning point. You know, it was a defining
Yeah.
moment. And it's part of the origin story of the business. And I love sharing it. But yeah, I've taken a different perspective to, right, all the people that betrayed me or screwed me or did whatever, right? And I think as men, especially when we're raising our sons, that's programming. Whatever we went through, that we've concluded about life and how life operates, you're going to teach that to your child, to your son, to your daughter, whether it's directly, indirectly, just your energy. And I really started realizing when my son was about three or four, and this gentleman's challenging me. He's like, what are you showing to your son? Well, I love my son. I'm like, you're pretty angry though. So what are you really showing him?
Wow. Yeah. Two things: anger and it's everybody else's fault. Blaming the others.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that reminds me of a story that I'm just going to share yesterday, but talking about, being a model and programming your children. So yesterday was a Sunday, and our children, both my 6-year-old and a 2.5-year-old, have swim class at a pretty nice swim school. The challenge with this swim school is they don't have their own pool, so they use hotel pools. Okay. Mm-hmm. So this is the third time in a row now where class was canceled after we got there, right? So I get a 6-year-old and a 2-year-old in 35-degree weather in the morning, and it's just a hassle. And I got really, really fed up with it. And I was like, why couldn't you guys tell us this an hour earlier, right? And I showed my disconcern to the owner of the company, or at least the person who manages the swim school. And later on, and I was on the way home, I was trying to explain Brody why it upset me. Like, listen, if they're not fulfilling their service kind of thing. And I was like, they need to learn business, that kind of thing. But it was interesting because he then acted it out towards my wife, obviously with a little bit more dramatics than I thought I had at that time. But that's what he saw, at least, that I was being the dramatic, quote, Karen at the time, because I was unhappy with that business. And it really took me off guard because that's what he saw. That's not what I felt like I was doing, yet that's what he saw. So everything we are doing, our children are seeing it, maybe for what it is, or maybe they're going to over dramatize it. Yet we have to be cautious of that.
Yeah, and I think in those moments, because like I have a big desire to change my family tree in a lot of capacities, right? A lot of different domains, and one of the biggest things I speak and encourage dads a lot is just be open with, hey, like I screwed this up right now. I should not have talked to you or this other person or reacted. It was a reaction, not a response. Two totally different things. And I was wrong, and I'm sorry. And just giving your kids that space to even be able to call you out, because like back in the day, we're in our 40s. Like, did you call out dad back in the day? Not
no
too
way.
many 40-year-olds growing up in the 70s, 80s. It doesn't mean that you're not dad and you don't have that fatherly authority, but it's like, hey, like we're not getting it right. And I just think that's important for, when a child can see that accountability, that's only going to wire and encourage them when they're a father one day.
Yeah,
right. Exactly.
That's interesting. Yeah, my kids are grown, as Dustin will point out all the time, because I'm a lot older than he is.
He's older than me.
But
But RJ, you have that full head of hair.
I do.
It's true.
Dustin, were you losing it? Dustin, were you losing it, or just decide to go bald? I'm always curious with the bald guys.
Male pattern baldness probably set in for me when I was like 17, 18, and I was like, nope, not doing it.
Okay.
Yeah, I've never known Dustin with hair. I mean, we met Dustin was young. Yeah. I mean, probably late 20s, I guess. And he had shaved his head back then. I've never seen him with hair.
Yep. I tried the head shave during COVID. I've got my forehead gets bigger every year. It just starts moving back up the head.
Yeah.
But I still have enough. I'm gonna use it while I've got it. And then, but I did okay on the bald.
Yeah, mine is my back.
Me and Bruce Willis brought it back.
But I was going to say my kids don't think anything of calling me out now. Again, they're grown. They're 26, 29, 32. Right. 2 boys, and our daughter is our youngest. She's the one that will, without question, call me out. If I'm being a douche at the moment to my wife, she will absolutely either right there in front of her, why are you acting like that? Or afterwards, like, we weren't being very nice to Mom. What are you doing? What the hell's wrong with you? So, we would have never done that before, but that's a beautiful thing, I think. Kids should have that right to do that, because we're not perfect and they need to know it.
We were driving. My son is 15. He just got his permit. We were driving in the car, and he's in a parking lot pulling around, and I'm in the front. My wife's in the back. We're both giving him direction, and you just see him shut down. Turn in front of this car. I'm like, okay, stop, park. And then it got heated. I'm like, listen, I'm giving the direction. Everybody else, be quiet. And then my daughter comes up to me after we go to dinner, and she's like, you need to apologize to Mom for the way you talked to her. That wasn't nice. And she corners me, and she's like, go apologize. And I go, yeah. Yep, totally right.
I love it.
Totally right.
Yeah, and it should be.
And then my son says, "Hey, man, one person talks to me when I drive."
Smart.
That's a trip. I don't know any dads with kid with a permit. That is just wild to sit in that passenger seat and just hope you get there alive.
And as I say all the time, hope is not a plan, but in that particular case, it's pure hope.
Nope. Absolutely.
Oh man.
Yeah,
so
that's
Matt,
great. Well, man, this is good.
Yeah, this is good.
Go ahead.
Now, I was just going to ask for this real quickly. What is the tie into Spain? Because I see that everywhere you talk about.
Yeah, it is. It's just a big part of my life. So 19 or 20. It's my second year of college, and I pursued Spanish at a very early age. So I was going to get at least a Spanish minor. And a professor that I became great friends with from Spain, she would always pull me aside at the end of a Spanish culture class every day. Hey, you should come visit my country. It would be great. You should study abroad. And she just nudged me, kind of harassed me. And then I just finally said, you know what? Like, that sounds cool. Like, I need to escape the environment here, and let's do it. So I signed up on a whim to do a spring semester. My junior year was 2002, and lived with a family right outside Madrid, and just totally fell in love with the country, the culture, the people, the food. And since then, I've traveled back. I take the kids there every other year. I take one of the kiddos, and we kind of do a father-daughter, father-son trip to Spain. And we've just built and developed a lot of friendships and relationships over there. I've done some speaking over there, and and then last year I kind of piloted a dream I had of taking groups of business leaders over to do experiences. So we're going to hike 70 miles of the Camino de Santiago. It's the St. James pilgrimage.
I know that one.
And I'm going to take a group there in September. Yeah, we're going to take about a dozen business leaders over there. And so it's a big part of my life. And just it would be weird if I didn't have that, to think just how many opportunities would not have arisen, how many people I wouldn't know. And it was such a push out of my comfort zone. A lot of lessons there that I learned about really getting uncomfortable. Take
that first step again, like you mentioned before.
Yeah. I mean, you want to hear the most embarrassing. I mean, this will be a fun one. So do you guys speak any other languages other than English?
No. Southern Missouri.
No.
So you're okay. So
a
little accent. We might declare that another language. No, you always make mistakes, right, when you're interacting with the language. But I walk into a McDonald's on a hot spring day right in the middle of Madrid, and I was going to order an ice cream cone, and an ice cream cone is CONO, cono. So you order a cone of ice cream, right? But Spanish has that little squiggly line over the N, right? So I went in and ordered a coño de helado, something else of ice cream. I ordered an ice cream vagina. And it was, and the gal, she kind of looks at me, and she knows I'm foreign, right? So she's messing with me. She goes, "Sir, that's going to cost you more than 50 cents. Is that, for here to go?" And the whole joint of workers at McDonald's, they're laughing. I'm, pasty white American guy, and just turn immediately red. And that was a funny story. But that's pretty uncomfortable when you do that.
That was more uncomfortable than mine. My kids laugh about the time we were in Mexico, and this gringo's trying to pretend like he's knows Spanish, and a lady came up to us. We're at a resort, so the person on the beach asked if we want something to drink, and I said, and we just been playing volleyball for hours. And I was like, yeah, we just need tres ochos. And she just looks at me, and my son's like, "Hey, Dad, you just ordered 3 8s." I'm like, "Oh, tres agua," and she's just laughing. It's like, nice job there, Missouri.
Right.
But that experience, it was just a great experience to get really uncomfortable and look at just what's on the other side of, like anything as dads, business people, leaders, just on that other side of your comfort zone is where the fun stuff is. It's where the growth happens. It's where the new relationships occur. All those things. My son and I took him to hike the Camino, this same 70-mile stretch. I hiked it with my son Riley last May. I mean, that was a great physical challenge. We used that very intentionally to talk to him about just manhood and that transition, and that was a beautiful experience. So just being able to go back there, it always reinvigorates that time of my life when just I learned so much. So that's why I go back so much. I love it over there.
I love that. Well, that story, thank you for sharing, because that's great. And how many of us have been in those awkward situations? But I also want to commend that person at McDonald's, because it sounds like she was extremely quick-witted, which I love.
Oh gosh, yeah. Well, and we were both, I was 19 and single. My wife, I have full permission to tell this story. I'm 19 single. Like I'm ready to meet ladies in Spain, and she was right back, because she gets a little red, and then she laughed. She turns back to, it was mostly girls working back there. Right. But I'm like, does she think I'm trying to like ask her out or pick her up? Because I'm fluent in Spanish. Like I'm literally fluent in every other word that I'm saying. And just imagine we're talking vagina just comes out. So it wasn't like I was fumbling everything. It was, this guy's completely fluent. They're looking at me like, was he German? How does he speak so well? And then what did he just say?
That's awesome.
Yeah, and then I never saw her again. Yeah.
Imagine that.
I bet. Well, right. Awesome. Thank you so much. I mean, we learned a couple different things with that, but a couple, takeaways from this episode I got out of there is, your first step's going to be hard. That's what I got out of there. And sometimes you're going to be humiliated or thrown on your back, right, when you least expect it, taking these steps. And I also, one of the things I got from this episode, which I really appreciate, is your story of how you found God. It doesn't have to be this dramatic thing. If you hear it, God's speaking to you, right? And it can be these subtle things. And I love that. And to that cop, I don't know if you ever thanked him for that, but it's a blessing for sure. So I loved that. Thank you for sharing all those.
No, thank you for letting me share in this capacity too. So I really appreciate you guys for that.
Yeah. So Matt, how can people find you? I know you mentioned your writing. You got a couple books out there. So how can people find you?
Yeah. Yeah, everything's on my website, mattshoup.com.
Okay.
I'm always building this big database of business and leadership tools. It's completely free. So when you go there, I've got a weekly blog. I do a morning coffee with Matt video every weekday. Those are on all my social media feeds. Okay. And then, I've got a free tool subscription where you can download a free video coaching series, leadership personality tools. And then, I've got my book coming up at the end of January here, Painted Baby. So that'll be out, and then I'll be speaking a lot about that.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. So take a look at that. That website will be in the show notes. Guys, again, our goal is to bring you value to put in your lives, in every pillar of your life, or maybe just an individual pillar, but everything that we have on this show is to bring you value. We have a lot of stuff going on in 2023, more so being the Dad Ups Council. So guys, please go take a look at that. That is where you can utilize the brotherhood to just be better every day. And that's going to be dadupcouncil.com. There's discounts on courses and other things that we're doing. So be on the lookout for that. That website will also be in the show notes. We also have, now granted, it is a retreat, but it's not a retreat in Spain. It's a retreat in South Central Missouri in a town called Lesterville, Missouri, but it's at a campground I own where we have a dad's retreat twice a year. We're getting ready to have the second one. It'll be the first weekend of May, so May 5th, 6th, and 7th, for 30 dads out there that are just ready to transform their lives. It was pretty amazing what happened last time, where these people who've never said what was going on in their lives before said it. And honestly, they were able to fix the challenges within a couple months after the retreat, because they finally admitted they were struggling. So it was a beautiful thing to see. So be on the lookout for that as well, because tickets are going to be going on sale quick. That's all I got. RJ, close us out.
Yeah. So guys, thanks for listening. Like Dustin said, we do this podcast, it's for you. It's a service that basically that we provide. It's free and it's out there. So help us by, all I ask, give us a rating. Rate the podcast, review it, and that helps get it found by other dads who want to be able to get great information and listen to discussions like this one with Matt. So that's the biggest thing. And if you want to reach us, Dustin mentioned the Dad Up Council. There is also a free Facebook group. So just search on Facebook, The Balanced Business Dad. And I think we have over 300 guys now just sharing and doing life together there and celebrating wins and having discussions. And we throw a little content on there too. But join us at the Balanced Business Dad on Facebook. Just search that, find the group, and we'll invite you in.
So cool. That's what we have, guys. Thank you so much. Make sure you like, review, and all that fun stuff that you can do with the podcast episodes. And we'll see you next time.